what are the key differences between writing long fiction and writing short fiction, i.e. novels versus comics? Well, the density of words is the simple answer. A novel is 100,000 words long, usually. A comic, I don't know, I've no idea what the word count of the comic is. It's 22 pages, or it's 5 pages, or 6 pages if it's 2000 AD. So there's a massive difference in terms of commitment to work, in terms of words on the paper. A novel, at the very best, is going to take you 2 or 3 months hard work, intense work, to get all of that down on paper. And therefore there is a degree of detail and complexity to a novel and to the characters of the novel that you won't get in a comic, or won't get in the same way in a comic. The fun of, I derive an enormous amount of pleasure from the idea of finishing a job, that satisfaction of a job well done. So comics are enormously satisfying because every couple of days you get another comic job finished and it goes into the pile, whereas a novel will be hanging around for ages not being finished. With a comic you're reading between the lines all the time because you're writing panel descriptions and then dialogue, so there is this huge grey area where the artist gets involved and produces something and adds a level of storytelling to the story you're trying to put across, whereas with a novel it's just you all the way through. What's the difference between European comics and American comics? Many different things. An American comic book is usually monthly, is usually 22 pages and usually this format, classic comic book format, and is usually superheroes, let's face it. In France and in continental Europe there are the sort of bande dessinée, the big format graphic novels which are very popular. In this country, in the UK, we have sort of cheap throwaway weekly comics like The Beano and the Dandy in 2000 AD, where everything is presented in an anthology format in short, sharp shocks of sort of 5 or 6 pages every week, and in a larger format. 2000 AD is this big compared to an American comic. I don't know why those things would matter very much. They're what the audiences are used to, and therefore they determine the style of stories told. I think continental stories are quite novel-like and complex because they're presented in big formats. American comics are probably, and I mean this in the best sense, are very much like soap operas. They're an ongoing story involving a character like, say, the Flash or the Green Lantern or whatever, developing it month after month after month after month and exploring all the ramifications and possibilities of that character. And comics like 2000 AD are often satirical and sort of critical and cynical about society in all sorts of interesting ways, because they don't have long to stay around. They're not around for long. They come in, they make some kind of brutal, caustic remark, and then they're off again. And I think that's interesting. There is enormous character development in British comics like 2000 AD, but it's delivered in a very different way to American comics. And 2000 AD is more about holding a mirror up to, I was going to say nature, but not just nature, but about mirror up to something which is revealing and telling. Are any of my characters like me? Probably all of them and none of them. There's got to be a bit of me in every single one of them, one way or another. And sometimes it's very obvious, like with Harlan Nail, I suppose. And sometimes it's less obvious, like with Elijah Koo or Patience Kiss. But there's got to be a bit of me everywhere. And there's bits of all sorts of other people that I know or I've seen on television or whatever. There's accumulated details that it's not deliberate. I don't collect these things and put them into people for a deliberate purpose. It's just that I find myself writing about somebody and then realising that they remind me of something or someone, and therefore a little detail gets put in. Sometimes it's I can sort of trace the etymology back, like Cara Swole was based essentially on a girl who works as a waitress down in the local coffee bar. not for any reason other than she was an interesting person and that she suggested somebody to me in my head. But others are more obscure, and sometimes I realise with sudden shock, I'm watching a film or I'm talking to somebody and I suddenly realise that they have informed or influenced a character and I hadn't been aware of it, which is great fun. Most of the key characters, like Gaunt himself, are based on so many people that I can't define them back or refine them back into one person and say that's who that inspired me to do that. They are more complex amalgams of other people. If I said, for instance, Val in the Gaunt's Ghost books was Kevin Bacon originally. I don't know why, just that I hung his character on Kevin Bacon, imagine Kevin Bacon playing him, and that worked. And obviously Val isn't Kevin Bacon and hasn't been Kevin Bacon for an enormously long time, and if you start reading Val's lines thinking of Kevin Bacon, you end up with a very strange thing in your head. So he's not, but he was to begin with. In the same way that the Gaunt was Goran Visnich and James Coburn in the 1960s, and Sharp and Damian Lewis in Band of Brothers, and who else is he? Denzel Washington, obviously. So loads of different people going together to blend this cocktail up, and some of them I'm sort of, I have no idea where they come from. They are completely themselves, which is fun, I suppose. So for every Colm Colbeck, who is 3 parts Robbie Coltrane, 3 parts Billy Connolly, I don't know. There is a Dallin Creed, or there is a Caffran, and I don't know where or who these people are, except that they are themselves. What I'm saying is I don't know where I latched onto somebody that synthesised themselves into that character.